Let me read to you a passage from the 17th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 7 to 10. It's the Gospel for Tuesday of the 32nd week in Ordinary Time. St. Luke writes, Jesus said, "Suppose one of you has a servant ploughing or looking after the sheep. Will he say to the servant when he comes in from the field, 'Come along now and sit down to eat'? Won't he rather say, 'Prepare my supper, get yourself ready, and wait on me while I eat and drink? After that, you may eat and drink'? Will he thank the servant because he did what he was told to do? So you also, when you have done everything you were told to do, should say, 'We are unworthy servants. We have only done our duty.'" That's from Luke chapter 17, verses 7 to 10. Speaking to us of our duty. You know, there have been a variety of approaches in working out a philosophy of the human person. What is man, fundamentally? Where are we to start in giving an account of man, as opposed, say, to his nearest cousin in the visible world, the animal? There is a standard classical definition. Man is a rational animal. This definition recognizes the obvious likenesses between man and the animal, especially the highly endowed animal. It places man in the animal class, but simultaneously denotes the feature which marks him off from all other animals: his rationality. He has intellect. He is an animal with mind, and with this power to reason and understand, he possesses an equally important gift, the freedom to choose among the options that lie before him. He is not the subject and slave of his instincts, as is every other animal. That man is a rational animal is the most widespread and received definition, but there have been important variations of this in emphasis. For instance, it has often been observed that, in view of the almost universal prevalence of religion in human culture, allowing for the anomaly of modern Western secularism, agnosticism, and atheism, and those cultures influenced by it, many have suggested that man is a religious animal. Of course, the religious instinct or sense is a feature of man's rationality, but the point is that this illustrates the variety of approaches to the understanding of man. John Henry Newman, in the 19th century, preferred to stress a different element of man's rationality in his account of man's basic structure: his conscience, or sense of duty. For instance, during the widespread and lengthy debate in England following Charles Darwin's publication of his work on the origin of species in November of 1859, Newman's correspondence shows he had no theological or philosophical difficulty with evolution as such. Evolution could have God as its author, as could a creation involving no evolution. Newman made an interesting observation. He said that he would allow an evolution of the animal, by God's sustaining hand of course, to the point of lower forms of intellect or rationality. What would mark the appearance or the creation of man as such would be the presence in him of a conscience or a sense of duty. Well, there is no need to linger on the merits or otherwise of this proposal. It would require a careful statement of the meaning of intellect and rationality, especially in light of the discoveries of some remarkable things which some animals can do. The point I'm making here is simply to highlight one fundamental feature of man's rationality and his whole personal structure, his conscience and sense of duty. Newman, for one, placed this high on the fundamental endowments of man. Indeed, in his philosophy of man, he makes it the natural foundation of the religious sense. So while some might see the religious sense as distinguishing man, Newman would see the conscience as the root, the principle, and the sanction of religion in man. It is, he taught, a basic starting point in human experience that man perceives his duty. Human life, the life that is distinctive to man as such, starts there, with his conscience and sense of duty. Man's flourishing depends on his fulfillment of his duty, his fidelity to his conscience. Indeed, Newman insists, there lies within man's conscience a primordial sense of the living objective God. It is critical to man that he be alive to his duty and that he be fully disposed to fulfill it. If this is lacking in him, whatever be his intellectual and reasoning endowments, whatever be his power to choose, he will fail as a man and get nowhere. More, he could become an ogre if his moral life is dormant. Moreover, his conscience will not only keep before him his duty, the key to his flourishing, but it will keep him humble in all that he does. It will teach him that he is a sinner, while urging him on in the duty of what his conscience dictates, the duty of doing it. And his conscience will sense that it is God who is calling him in it all. Well, let this general point of the fundamental importance of our sense of duty introduce us to our Lord's teaching in the Gospel I read earlier. We must strive through life to fulfill the will of God. This is our constant duty. But however well we may do this, due to the assistance of God's grace, we never have reason to boast of doing something exceptional. It is no more than our duty. As we heard our Lord say, will he, the master, thank the servant because he did what he was told to do? So you also, when you have done everything you were told to do, should say, we are unworthy servants. We have only done our duty. Luke chapter 17, verse 7 to 10. Let us strive to cultivate a sense of the sovereignty of God, our loving Father. His will is our life, and nothing matters in comparison to the doing of it. That is our basic duty. If God's will is done, all will be well. And if, due to the gift of His grace, we are blessed with doing it, then our gratitude ought to be profound. The more we do God's will, the more will our vision be clear enough to see how often we fail to do it. In any case, our attitude ought be, as our Lord explains, that we are unworthy servants. We have only done our duty. Let us make the loving and grateful fulfillment of our duty a fundamental element of our daily life. It will lead to true life and flourishing.